Hey there, and welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are tackling something really fascinating.
We are.
We've got this stack of source material that, on the surface, looks incredibly simple. It's an instructional script.
Yeah, it's designed to teach conversational English, specifically how to talk about your weekends.
Exactly. And this is where we sort of flip the script, so to speak.
We turn the learning guide into data.
Yeah.
We're not here to, work on our grammar. We're here to reverse engineer the hidden structure.
Yes. The big question we're asking is this. What are the fundamental, almost mandatory categories of activity that a conversation about your time off has to include to feel complete?
And that's our mission. We're extracting the skeleton of this very common social ritual, the whole "how was your weekend" chat.
Right. And the original dialogue, it features these two speakers, Daniel and Sarah, and it immediately gets at this universal truth.
That a weekend conversation isn't just a random list of things you did. It's a pre-categorized inventory of modern life. We're basically pulling out the patterns, these 5 core buckets the script just leans on completely.
What's so fascinating to me is how fast the guide goes from a simple hello to these really profound structural categories.
Oh, absolutely. It immediately splits the whole idea of the weekend into these defined lanes.
Yeah.
Are you talking about relaxation or energy, connection, productivity?
Or preparation. The very first exchange forces you to pick a side between two fundamental philosophies.
It does. Which brings us right into our first big category.
The weekends start relaxing versus recharging.
Yep. And the structure of the script makes it clear that the conversation has to start by contrasting these two completely opposite ways of looking at a Saturday morning. And that is not an accident.
It feels like the foundational tension we all live with, right?
It is. I mean, you look at Daniel's approach, it's the classic low-demand recovery.
Right. The examples are so specific. Waking up late, making a cup of coffee.
And settling in to read a book. It's all very slow, deliberate, internally focused. It's about recovering a deficit you built up during the week.
It's pure restoration, but then the script immediately throws in the counterpoint,
Sarah's approach.
which is this energetic, proactive contrast. She starts with a morning walk.
And she even explains why, saying it makes her feel fresh and energetic. She's not recovering from a deficit at all.
No, she's preparing for future output.
Exactly. So if you look at the big picture, the guide is teaching the learner not just what to say, but how to state their core philosophy for the week right from the start.
Do you see the weekend as catching up on rest or as a launch pad for more activity?
And that contrast is so vital for the teaching part. It gives you 2 distinct paths to choose from right away. It establishes a clear topic sentence for the rest of the conversation.
It sets the emotional tone, too. A walk signals high energy, right? But coffee and a book says you need a little space.
For sure. But, once you've sorted out your internal battery level, the weekend almost always pulls you outward.
Which brings us right to section 2, social connection.
Exactly. The script knows that private time eventually gives way to public life.
So the focus shifts. It moves to friends, family, and the activities mentioned are, well, they're super traditional, universally relatable.
And they give us 3 main types of what you could call accessible social things to do.
First, there's the sort of obligation or tradition.
Visiting parents.
Then there's the collective domestic thing.
Yeah.
Cooking together, watching a movie, that comfortable just being together model.
And third, the script recognizes you have to get out of the house, even for a bit.
That's where going out for lunch or enjoying a short drive comes in.
And what's really important here is that none of these are high pressure or expensive. They're just this simple scaffolding for a basic relational conversation.
And this is where it gets really interesting, I think.
Oh, yeah.
The script just pauses the whole narrative flow.
It just stops.
It stops. And it transitions into explicit instruction. It's like a mental cheat sheet for beginners.
It's exchange 3. And it distills the entire complex reality of a weekend into 4 incredibly simple foundational phrases.
And this distillation is structurally just fascinating to look at.
It is. They cover location, chores, and basic fun. The 4 sentences they pretty much mandate are: I spend my weekend at home,
I go shopping with my family,
I clean my room.
and I watch movies on Sunday.
That list is a perfect little snapshot, isn't it?
It is. It covers the domestic base, where you are, what needs doing. Before you even think about getting into anything more complicated, it's the absolute safe toolkit.
It really is. It basically tells the learner, look, if you can master these 4 statements, you can handle the basic conversation.
It confirms that where you are in the state of your cleanliness are just non-negotiable points to cover.
Totally. So once that foundation is down, the script then moves into something a little more personal.
Section 3. The role of hobbies in mental health.
Right. And this section confirms that in any modern conversation about your weekend, you have to talk about things you do just for yourself, for pure enjoyment or self-maintenance.
This is where personal identity gets expressed.
And the examples they pick are archetypal, really. They show two very different approaches to leisure. You have Sarah, who mentions gardening,
Specifically, watering plants and taking care of flowers.
and her reason is key. She says, it helps me relax. That connects the hobby directly to mental wellness, to this idea of slow living.
Okay, but I have to challenge the guide a little here.
Go on.
I mean, the examples work for clarity, but aren't they a bit dated as archetypes? Gardening, playing football.
Hmm.
What if your actual hobby is, I don't know, competitive online gaming or just doom scrolling for 5 hours? Does the script kind of fail to capture modern leisure?
That's a really sharp critique, and you're not wrong. But I think in the context of a language guide,
It's about simplicity.
it's about pedagogical simplicity. They choose clear, visually distinct, universally understood activities. Gardening is quiet, it's solitary.
And playing football or going to the gym, which Daniel brings up, is loud, external, often social.
Exactly. So the goal isn't to be culturally comprehensive. It's to give clear opposite examples of how to talk about leisure. The quiet, meditative hobby versus the active, high-energy one.
Makes sense.
And the script really validates this whole category by stating that weekends are the perfect time for hobbies. So it's a non-negotiable part of the conversational structure.
But, of course, as we've already hinted at, weekends aren't just all relaxation and fun.
No, they are absolutely not.
And that brings us squarely to Section 4, the productivity balance.
This is the reality check.
It really is. This is the moment the script grounds all that high-minded talk of reading and relaxation and the harsh reality that weekends are often just overflow. For all the productive tasks that didn't fit into the work week,
This is mandatory productivity. And this analysis is so critical. A conversation that only lists fun things feels fake. It's not relatable. So the guide makes sure it's useful by giving 3 very specific, very common examples of necessary weekend tasks. It establishes that chores are a required conversational lane.
and the 3 they pick are washing clothes, cleaning the house, and buying groceries.
The 3 pillars of keeping modern life from falling apart.
They're universally necessary and, let's be honest, universally tedious.
And this is where the guide provides its best service, I think. It shows you how to summarize these complex, sometimes draining tasks really efficiently.
It gives us these concise productivity phrases.
Yes, the first is I do household chores, which is just a perfect conversational catch-all.
It is. And the second is this very forward-looking phrase, I prepare for the next week.
That phrase is so important because it positions the weekend not just as an end in itself, but as a bridge to future success.
That one little sentence, I prepare for the next week, it elevates the whole discussion, doesn't it? It's not just listing tasks anymore.
No, it's about strategic time management. It connects washing your clothes or buying groceries directly to how emotionally prepared you feel for Monday morning. The weekend becomes, in part, functional leisure.
Functional leisure, that's a perfect term for it.
It's tasks you do not for pleasure, but to clear the deck for the next 5 days.
And that concept, functional leisure, it validates all that time we spend doing things that don't feel like fun but are so essential. Now, speaking of the end of the weekend,
Sunday.
the guide actually treats Sunday differently. It separates it out in Exchange 6, suggesting it has its own distinct pace.
And it does. This is Section 5, the Sunday distinction.
So if Saturday is defined by that contrast and by social stuff,
Sunday, according to this structure, is all about deceleration. It's about internal reflection. The script literally calls it the slow day.
and the activities they list reflect that need to wind down. They're softer, more internal.
You see taking rest, calling friends, which is the low-energy social connection.
And they mention cooking something special.
I love that one. Cooking something special is fascinating because it implies intentionality. It's not just making dinner.
No, it's a deliberate, pleasurable task that signals the end of the week. It's a form of self-care.
It is. And then, very smartly, the script loops right back to preparation at the very end.
It does. The final activity listed for Sunday is preparing the schedule for Monday. It ties that last moment of rest together with that crucial light prep work.
So Sunday acts as this psychological cool-down period before you plunge back into the work week.
So what does this all mean? The guide's ultimate wrap-up, or so what moment, is this final framework for you, the listener.
It gives you this simple trichotomy. Weekends can be fun, productive, or just relaxing. And it confirms that all three of those dimensions have to be there to really describe your time off.
It's just a huge amount of structure packed into such a simple dialogue. It proves that even a brief conversation follows this rigorous, almost predictable pattern.
It really does.
So let's do a quick recap because now you have the toolkit. We pulled out 5 structural categories from this conversation.
Right. First, we look at that initial choice between relaxation versus energy. That's the coffee and book versus the morning walk. It defines your energy level.
Second was the dedicated time for social connection. Visiting parents, going for a drive. That confirms that some external engagement is mandatory to talk about.
Third, we highlighted those essential foundational phrases. The mental cheat sheet. I clean my room. The absolute basics.
Fourth, we talked about the need for hobbies and leisure, covering both the quiet, restorative things like gardening and the active, social things like football.
Proving that dedicated personal time is a key conversational lane.
And finally, we hit on the necessity of the productivity and chores category.
That's where we tackle that functional leisure washing clothes. And, most importantly, preparing for the next week.
So understanding this framework gives you a huge advantage. When someone asks about your weekend, you don't just list things off.
No, you can mentally structure your answer using these 5 buckets. It ensures your response is comprehensive, relatable. You now have these specific phrases like, I prepare for the next week, or I take rest, that work as perfect signposts.
And that brings us to our final provocative thought, which builds on the tension the guide gives us. The source material ends by asking the learner to describe their last weekend using these phrases.
Right.
So if we look at the core activities listed, a peaceful cup of coffee and a book on one hand, or washing clothes and meticulously preparing your Monday schedule on the other, which category, for you, is the most essential ingredient for a successful week ahead?
And that is the ultimate tension, isn't it? Does a really productive weekend, loaded with chores and prep, leave you feeling strategically prepared and therefore less stressed?
Or does a truly relaxing weekend focused only on rest and quiet hobbies give you that deep restorative power you need to actually thrive?
The guide forces you to think about that balance.
Do you define your weekend success by the amount of rest you got, or by the amount of work you got done before that Monday alarm clock rings?
It's something to think about as you figure out your own perfect weekend structure.
We'll catch you on the next